let us assume that how the transaction will be having the things. So, for example, whenever a transaction is when a block is created by the initiating the transaction, the first block is called and uh, the the initial block, that blocks one is called the the origin of the block. So that being initiated by these blocks, it is then the origin. So that block will be there. So transaction is a value transfer. For example, I wanted to sell my property to somebody else. Ownership of a two-wheeler to a from the seller to buyer. What is the transaction value transfer will happen? The ownership of the vehicle has been transferred to the from seller to the buyer. So what that block it contains? A block is a collection of transaction with the in a Bitcoin network or any other network gathered into a block that hashed and added the block. So hashing is one of the concept as a part of the cryptography. We are going to hash it and add it into the things. So I told we need to have certain consensus algorithm is there. So proof of work, proof of stake, proof of uh, time is there, proof of elapsed time is there. Take by one by them. So that is a proof of work being done. So with the ID. So assume that first block identified by the block one, and it's a block ID called 51, I think, and there will be a connectivity. Each block are connected with the hash value with the next block, and the block here, if you take the block 52, have the connectivity with the block one. So there will be a transaction will be there, and transaction ID will be there, and all those things are interlinked that. So they are all connected with certain hash value so that nobody can tamper. That's why the blockchain is always called as the immutability. Nobody can tamper the transaction, because if anybody wanted to tamper the transaction, that you the transaction fails. So there will be a link will be there. For example, simple one I will tell you. Assume that in your bank you have 1000 rupees in your account. Using the UPI, you do and initiate the transaction to buy or transfer the amount. Assume that first transaction you transferred rupees 500. So the transaction has been initiated. So what should be your balance in your bank account? That we should have another balance called 500. So assume that you want to do another transaction of 300 rupees. Okay, then it will check with the balance available in the bank, your account. So out of 500, you can do the transaction, validate the amount available, and you can complete the transaction because you wanted to transfer the amount of the 300 rupees to other person, other party, or you wanted to purchase anything. So now what should be my update information in bank balance in my account? We should have account rupees 200 rupees only. Now, see here, assume that if somebody wanted to penetrate between the transaction, they wanted to steal away this information, your transaction, any information, they wanted to uh, do that thing, or only even the person who are into wanted to validate the thing, so they wanted to utilize the problem. I mean, they can't do the double spending. For example, my opening balance in my account is 1000 rupees. In the first transaction, did the transaction of 500. In that second transaction, I have the 300 rupees transaction. In the third transaction, I have been allowed to do only the transaction of amount 200 rupees. Assume that somebody wanted to tamper my balance uh, from user part. So they wanted to showcase that my balancing is existing the 1000 rupees only. That is not possible in the blockchain environment. You can't tamper the data. You can't terminate. You can't. You can't remove the transaction which is happened, and you can't update the balance also. That means my existing actual balance is of 200 only be retained constantly over the blockchain transaction. The things so that is being secured with the cryptography transaction with the hash value, and another concept called proof of work which has been taken initiation. So it will be having with the uh, proof of work with it could be a random number will be there. So a cryptographic hash value will be there, and every block is connected to the previous block, and the previous present block is connected to the post block. So like that is been connected. Use that. So now if you take that something like mining, so mining is nothing but you have to solve the certain puzzles in order to validate the uh, to claim that your transaction is being done. So, hope all of you could be able to follow my explanation. Please put it in the chat box. Hope all of you are active, being in a weekend on Saturday, early morning, in the morning's time. Hope all of you are following me. So, what is the cryptographic puzzle? That means, so assume that it's a process solving the cryptographic problem using computing hardware, also trigger the release of cryptocurrency. I'm just taking a reference of here with the terminology. Assume that you have to solve certain mathematical problem. For example, you people heard about the gaming, online gaming. It could be need for speed or anything. So in order to get certain omniscience or any points, that in order to do that mean you have to solve certain puzzle. You have to go to the level 1, level 2, level thing is the severity of thing is from simple to the complex, complex to the multiple complex will be there. Like you have to solve the certain things. So it will be like middle lower version, middle level, and higher versions that will be there. So that is you have to solve this cryptographic problem using the computing hardware and trigger the certain release of the currencies are there. So this process by which transactions are verified added to the blocks. For example, I am going to validate the transaction. So by solving the cryptographic functions, so that will be used there. So assume that, so mining, I'm going to tell you anything about that. So let us we concentrate about the blockchain. So now what do you mean by fork? Again, for example, if you are aware of the operating system, so or any other software related thing, the fork will be created. What is a fork means? A fork is a creation of ongoing alternative versions of the blockchain. So by creating a two blockchain simultaneously and different parts of the network, which created two parallel blocks. So where one of the two winning the blockchain. So that is how it happens. Block found at the same time. Software incompatibility, we don't agree the split. For example, assume that I'm taking small a sports related example. There are 100, 200, some 5, 6 people are okay. So assume that there are athletes are on the track. Assume that they are reaching the 100 meters athlete race at particular 9.98 or 9.2, 9 point or 8 point something the time is there. Assume the some 3 people out of the contestant who are on the track, they reach at the particular point in the similar time, maybe a millisecond differences. So assume that how to validate the person claim that. So that means assume that that's a parallel of blocks are then that is the winner we have to choose that. So which winner have to be validated. So that means assume that I am comparing with the athlete here, not the practically how it. So assume that a block found at a time. That means athletes are reaching to the particular point almost same time. Assume that how to validate that, and I have to go in the things. If somebody completed a 100-kilometer race with 9 minutes, 2 seconds or anything. Assume that another one is completed at 9 minute 1 second or one with millisecond and all. You have to find out that how the timing will be taken into the consideration. What you have to do, we have to take up that is the time stamping concepts where the particular transactions are validated, how it is approved, and which is the earliest, most and most recently been a transaction is validated. So based on the different concepts, we can come to that one. So that's why sometimes what will happen if multiple claims are happening, that multiple transaction claim to be the they are the first and all. So there are certain that is called the fork here. So fork is a creation of the alternative versions of the blockchain which been implemented in the things. Later on, we'll give more example. So what will happen? So block found at the same time, software incompatibility, we do not agree and split. So come to the things. Fork means, for example, Assume that you might have seen that there are various blocks are interconnected. That means all the transactions. Assume that block can contain maybe 100 transaction. Block contains maybe under 100 transactions. So everything is are integrated. Sometime there could be a chance of a similar blocks are created online. So because of the vulnerability with respect to the software incompatibility or inespeciality in those things. So in order to mitigate that thing, how we can come up with this concept? That is the challenge in the blockchain environment. Now let us go to the blockchain terminology. So as I told, in August 31st, 2008, Satoshi Nakamoto come up with a white paper called how I can apply the blockchain in order to have a currency exchange called cryptocurrency using the blockchain terminologies and blockchain technology and concepts. So cryptocurrency is nothing but a virtual currency. There is no physical currency like our flat currency. Assume that you people know that the difference between a flat currency or the cryptocurrency, which is being have the physical mode of the currency, which is can be identified by the rupee, dollar, euro, yen, or any form of currency. But cryptocurrency are the virtual mode. You can't view it or you can't sense it, but you can have the value for that. That means some cryptocurrency value in the form of the value part we can see the things and you can validate the transaction. That is the problem with the cryptocurrency, that the virtual currency is concept of blockchain things. Now they use some of the regulatory body in India or in some countries, their things in abroad also, they are regulating that because of the misuse of the cryptocurrency in various unauthorized manner. So, what is need an electronic payment based on the cryptographic proof instead of the trust? That is, the trust means if you I give an example, the bank instead of centralized banking people or centralized trust as an RBI or anything, central bank or anything, which is controlled by these things. So the centralized banking system should not be there, and anybody who can validate, transfer the mode in the form of cryptocurrency can exchange between the two people. That means allowing any two willing parties, though could be seller or buyer. For example, there will be a currency conversion is required. So from one currency to other currency, they wanted to change. So two parties willing to do the transaction directly without any media or the middleman, like in a trusted environment. But in a without need of a third party trust, they can do parallelly. The transaction can be done. So without interference of the third party or the centralized trust, so which is controlled by the in the banking system or any other system. So similarly, the blockchain has been adopted in the Bitcoin. So in the Bitcoin, if you take an architecture of the thing, how what are the some of the blockchain components are been integrated in the Bitcoin. So this one, like it header contains has twice to create the fingerprint. A transaction count will be there, and block content will be the Coinbase or Bitcoin. Anything could be there. So for example, you can see the structure of a transaction. A block header contains the technical data, previous block information, Merkle root. Merkle root is a data structure. The block hash is the cryptography part. So technical data with respect to the storage access, metadata will be storing here there. Then difficulty target means in order to anybody wanted to tamper the things, we'll claim that the difficulty in the target, because you have to, in order to do the anything the transaction, we should have certain cryptographic puzzle should be there. And nonce is the value. So I will explain what do you mean by nonce later on. So if you take the blockchain terminologies, cryptocurrency have applied those things. So there will be a money transfer can happen from the things. Assume that here you can see the a flow chart here. It's a flow chart. It's representing how the money can be transferred across the various functionalities. Assume that there is a transfer can happen between the two end users. The two end users, they are using a secured way of transaction in their mode of utilization. Now, so you assume that a person A quest to spend some cryptocurrency to his friend. Assume that Mr. Rao wanted to send some money to Laura. So here you can see that. So a person A wanted to open the Bitcoin wallet. So that is like you are assume that you're opening in your UPI wallet. Assume that you have cut you recharge your UPI wallet with certain currency. Now you are scanning or copying the Laura's address through any format through QR enabled code or any other transaction. Now fills the amount that has to be transferred. If you refer here, it is a cryptocurrency, and you wanted to send to the end user. So there will be things will be there, and in between there will be a media. The transactions should be validated through media, through where the transaction should happen. So here your wallet, the crypto wallet or any UPI wallet, so that sign the transaction using the private key. So I can authenticate with the authentication with the concept called cryptographic keys called private key, public key, and all. I will explain that later on. What is that private key, all those things. Because in the initially I'm going slow in order to make you to understand the concepts. So we'll use the authentication with the public key or private key. Assume that public key, private keys, that thing is what we are using the two-way authentication method. So with a PIN number, password, or in order to validate your credential. So it could be a transaction password or the validation password, or it could be a secret number that you are going to validate the transfer. So these are the things how you are going to initiate the things. So you are using the key in order to do the transaction. So transaction is being propagated and validated by the network node through banking people or any trust people. So then miner include the transaction for the next block and mined. So that is so mining time order to validate your transaction is called the mining time. So now that so miner who solve the proof of work propagate the new block to the network. That means so here in the cryptocurrency is a different things. Who are the winner will be who are going to solve the problem early. They will be the winner. Assume that you are doing a gaming. Who solve the puzzles will go to the next level. Or if and skip assume that there are 10 levels of gaming is there. Who have do fast the solving the level 1 level 2 gaming, you will go to the thing. Similarly here we have the concept called cryptographically validating the things, so they can go to the second level, higher level, so that so you can claim that I am the owner of the transaction. I have done the cryptographically anything. So node verify the result and propagate the things. That means everybody in the even all the people are doing the validating as a miner. So they'll be know the updated information so that they can come to know that who has been validated things. So assume that so that is the validator. You assume that the if you take in healthcare, there are the participant there. For example, I'm a validator with these things. I'm going to explain in with use cases. Healthcare, you are going to initialize the claim as a insurance holder. Then you will do the transaction. It is will be validated, uploaded by the validated by the hospital with supporting document. Then third party will assess the claims and all the transaction will be there. So then you once it is approved, then the a party where the insurance provider will going to validate your amount or anything deduction or any claims to be verification to be done. So that will be done. So your Laura sees the first confirmation but particular thing. You will get an assume that if you wanted to claim something, you will get a first initial authorization from the person, and finally you will end the transaction. This is a simple flow with the cryptocurrency. I'm explaining with the a real world blockchain application as a use case with the healthcare. So now another blockchain concept called concept the Ethereum. So Ethereum is proposed in 2013 by Vitalik Buterin. So that is a concept called cryptocurrency researcher and a research who are validating on the various other secure concepts of the validating the transaction, and not only the cryptocurrency. So this proposer identified by Vitalik Buterin, so cryptocurrency research and a programmer, he have come up with various programming to self-executable contracts. So online crowd sale during summer 2014, they work out with that. So as per this quote, Mr. Vitalik Buterin. So a blockchain is a magic computer that anyone can upload the program to leave the program self-executable things. These are here told, in a cryptocurrency codes, that is the contracts are there. We have to be executed by all the participants. But in the Ethereum, it is a self-executable. Assume that is a contract where the current and all the previous state of the every program always publicly visible and carries a strong crypto economically secured guaranteed program running on the chain in the blockchain will continue to execute exactly what the blockchain protocol specify. So there, in order to apply that, we have a international standard called NIST standards are there. We have to follow the NIST standard because it is an international body, authorized by the UN nations and all over the globe. So they will give a instruction what are the NIST standard should be done for every concept, so cryptography, blockchain, everything. So they have to have the certain protocols. So blockchain protocols are there that we have to see that later on we'll come to know that. So what is that standards are there? So Ethereum means it is again the decentralized app or platform called DApps. So now you can see in the screen. So the difference between a centralized, decentralized, and distributed system. So if you take that means in a centralized platform, every node are connected to a central server or central point. In the distributed point, we can have a multiple server or multiple access points so that many other cluster of the nodes are connected to a one network and each network is kind interconnected. So that is called the decentralized things. Now, distributed means every node are connected. It could be a server or a client or any systems are connected in the a distributed manner so that every node can able to access the other node instantaneously in a real time, autonomous in a distributed. So that is the how the blockchain can be implemented in the Ethereum environment. So smart contract or smart contract ledger is there, the transaction which can be validated, and we have a concept called Ethereum virtual machine called EVM. So it will be using this platform or the technology supporting system. And in the Bitcoin, we call them as the BTC, so cryptocurrency, but in the Ethereum environment, the cryptocurrency is called the Ether. So it is measured in the different things like how the unit price of a dollar, unit price of the uh, any currency being identified, we have certain classification that one. So like if you take unit wise 1, 10, 100,000, million, billion, trillion, so there will be a different things are there. So Ethereum have the how the in a traditional contract works. Assume that there is a smart contract is there, and but in a traditional way, the contract being defined by the paper in a practical way. So, for example, I wanted to have a rent a house. So as a rentee, so I want have an agreement with the owner of things, or I wanted to purchase a vehicle. For nowadays, aggregators are there. You can hire a scooter in order to travel, hire a four-wheeler to hire a thing. So there will be a certain contract will be there, or any other contract that mutual understanding to utilize the product or the services. Now you have to think about those product also. It could be product based services or the service based thing, product or service that you have to define properly what you are going to use it, whether at a product level or access with the service level. So the definitions are documented with a paper, the things in a digital format. So then contract have the execution. So interaction between the human and object, possible application, anything that can be done. Then it will be audit control will be there. Some data collection will be validated. That so these contract are self-executing. I told in Ethereum environment, so all executing self-executing program are there. So how the execution will happen? So program execution, only one interpretation will be there. No, not reversible autonomous systems are there. So that means that is the concept of the one of the characteristics of the blockchain is called immutable. You can't tamper anything. So immutable means you can't tamper. If you wanted to tamper anything, so the value of the things are the it will be terminated, or the hash value of the particular transaction will be changed, so that you can't have the similarity the original hash to the tampered hash, so that the similarity will go off, then the execution will fail, or the chain will break. So there will be audit control will be there, real-time immutable control with a physical database is connected, all the things are there. Now come to the blockchain, distinguish between the database and the blockchain ledger. So now let us take an input from you people. So hope you people understand. Can you tell me the what is the